Well, here I am in the middle of the day, about to enjoy Queen Charlotte in my family room with all of my children home. Can't wait. Just kidding. If I'm gonna watch this show, I have a feeling I'm gonna have to do it here or here.
Mom, I need you!
I'm in the bathroom! I'll be out in a minute! Or even here. We got a TV and this door locks. Hi, my name's B, and welcome to my channel, Mama Needs to Read Romance, and also watch romance, but it's tricky. Well, here we are, and it's the beginning of my Bridgerton journey. I'm so excited. Kicking off my Bridgerton experience with the prequel of all prequels, Queen Charlotte, and I am starting today. And you are coming with me on this vlog. Let's do this. Let's have some Bridgerton fun. So I just watched the first episode. Oh my gosh, it is so good. This is so crazy. There are going to be spoilers, by the way. I don't think there's any way to talk about this without. First impressions, love the music, love the cinematography. It is fabulous. The first episode, by the way, is called Queen to Be because this is mostly about Queen Charlotte becoming Queen Charlotte. We find out that her brother has betrothed her to the king because they live in Germany. He's trying to help their country out. You can't say no to England, which is at the time the most powerful country in the world. Charlotte spends half of this episode trying to figure out what kind of guy George is, and no one's willing to give her the goods. She decides to make the best of it. She's even got a special dress from Paris that she's wanting to use, but George's mother, the mother-in-law and all mother-in-laws, says, no, we have a dress for you. Sorry, you're gonna do that. They also don't like the fact that she is quite brown, as they mention. Reminds me a little bit of that whole controversy with Harry and Meghan. So they decide to invite more of her people to come to the wedding, even though it's only 6 hours away. At which point we meet Lady Danbury for the first time, Agatha. I know from my little experience that Lady Danbury is a key player in the Bridgerton books and series. So I'm excited about that. We meet her though when she's with her very old husband, and it's gross. I'm just gonna say it's gross. I'm not gonna say more than that. Also, did you catch at the wedding, George's mother acknowledges Lord Smythe-Smith. So there's Julia Quinn's Smythe-Smith quartet shout out right there. How cool is that? So Charlotte climbs the wall before the wedding and encounters this gorgeous, gorgeous man for the first time. Oh my gosh, the chemistry was off the charts. I was loving it so much. This guy is handsome. He looks like Dave Franco and Nicholas Hoult had a baby. He tells her that he's King George. So they get married. I loved the wedding. I loved how the entire thing is free of dialogue, but just beautiful, ethereal music throughout. I loved that. Speaking of music, loved the music afterwards when they played Beyonce's Halo, but an instrumental version. How cool was that? And then at this point, you realize something's rotten in the state of Denmark. Something's going on. People are looking at her, saying it's gonna be okay. If you need me, I'm here. She's like, what's going on? And then George drops her off at her home. Not their home, her home. And he gets really spooked, really defensive, really bizarre. He's like, I'm your king. We're not living together. I'm not gonna perform my marital duties tonight. Goodbye. So I don't know what that's about. Now, there are some jumps back and forth in time to the present day where Queen Charlotte is much older. The only legitimate granddaughter that she has passed away in childbirth. So now there is no heir to the throne, despite the fact that Charlotte and her husband had 15 children. None of them have had a legitimate heir. So the pressure's on for somebody to get right. But she walks into the room of her children and they're all just lounging around. They all seem like kind of a mess. So it's gonna be interesting. There's gonna be some comedy, I think, involved in that, but I need to watch episode 2 because I need to see more of George and figure out what in the world's going on with that guy, because there's something major. So, and by the way, did you notice how the episode was dedicated to Jacqueline Avant? Turns out she is the mother-in-law of one of the Netflix CEOs who actually had great interest in Charlotte as a historical figure and encouraged the people in Netflix to reach out to Shonda Rhimes about creating this series. Now, unfortunately, Jacqueline Avant passed away, so she's not around to see the series, but it's lovely that they were able to pay tribute to her and the ball that she got rolling. I'm looking forward to episode 2 tomorrow. what a beautiful day today. May, spring, it was warm. We decided to go out to the mountains and we enjoyed a lovely afternoon at one of our favorite wineries where we haven't been in at least a year. So it was a lot of fun. And before and after, I had a chance to watch episode 2 of Queen Charlotte entitled Honeymoon Bliss. Oh my gosh, guys, this episode was crazy. This was my first real introduction to the, the reason why people say don't watch this with your children. There were a lot of bottoms, a lot of male bottoms on display. Well, 2. But still, it seemed like a lot considering I'm not used to that at all. So I was like, whoa, not prepared for that. But honestly, half of this episode was starring Queen Charlotte and an empty chair. That's right. George is still off on his own for most of the episode, and she is alone and she's losing her mind. She's going crazy. So Brimsley, her right-hand man, who I'm becoming more and more I find him more endearing all the time. I really like him a lot. He wants the best for her. He doesn't want her to break the rules, but he wants to find a way to bend them so that she can be happy. So he invites Lady Danbury to come and be her confidant. And Lady Danbury explains all of the birds and the bees to Queen Charlotte to help her out. And you get the sense that this is going to be a wonderful friendship that develops. And Queen Charlotte really needs it because she's feeling terribly, terribly lonely. Oh my gosh, there's a fox in my... That was a fox that just ran through my front yard. Holy cow. Anyway, at one point she goes to confront George and he's in his observatory, the only one in the country. He's looking at the stars. That seems to be his big passion. It's so confusing because she's there and he's like, hey, how's it going? And it's like, hello, you have not been with her. Why are you acting like this? So they have a talk. They don't really come to any understanding at all. He's still super standoffish. She's very upset. It does give Brimsley the opportunity to engage in the love affair that he apparently is having with the King's man. So that was a surprise. I actually felt much happier for them later on in the episode because, well, obviously this is the big episode. George finally decides to let Charlotte in. He comes back to the house with her. It is lovely. I thought the big wedding night scene was done very well. It was intimate. It was sweet. It felt epic. There were placements of furniture where necessary. Anyway, and during that, Brimsley gets to spend an extended period of time with his man, also known as the King's man, whose name I have not been able to figure out yet. So you get the sense that all is right with the world until the following morning when George speaks with his mother, and you get the sense that he feels so trapped and he's just doing what he's told, which if now Charlotte feels kind of used, I think, that it wasn't real, that George's feelings weren't real, that what they shared wasn't real. So she's pretty upset, and George winds up having I'm guessing a panic attack is what it appears. That poor thing. So he's got a lot going on and Charlotte doesn't know. He doesn't want Charlotte to know. So at the end, your heart sort of breaks for George. And here's something else that I forgot to mention that I want to bring up before I'm done with this episode. George's mother approaches Lady Danbury and says, look, I need to know what's going on and I need you to tell me. And I thought, okay, Lady Danbury, she's great. She's not going to say anything. Then Lady Danbury says, well, I need some land. We need a house. We can give one another favors, essentially. So that made me a little sad because I thought, oh no, she's going to turn in all the secrets to George's mom in exchange for gifts, which is unfortunate. So we'll see what Lady Danbury is willing to expose at this point. I get the sense that Lady Danbury is going to be a great friend to her, especially when we move forward in time. We see Queen Charlotte continuing to be alone, continuing to be sad. She does have her friend groups. So you get the sense that this is going to be a sad ending. It's not a happily ever after. Let's move on, shall we? the week starts. I also had a chance to take a beautiful walk, and I shared that with you just before this video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. But let's talk about Even Days, episode 3. Pretty early in the episode, you understand that even days are the days that Charlotte and George get together because they're hoping to make a baby. George is just trying to do his duty, and Charlotte wants to connect with him, but unfortunately it's not happening. It's not until later she overhears him talking to his mother, and he talks about all the pressure that he's feeling, the fact that he's more of an exhibit than a person. He just feels a lot of pressure and stress. So we see him working that out in various ways. He is a farmer. He loves working in the earth. We know he's in love with astronomy. He never goes out. He never does anything in public, but he's finally living with Charlotte, so she's happy with that. But yes, things change after he realizes that it seems like he's been acting. He's not really interested in her. So they have a coronation. It was really neat actually seeing the coronation, because yesterday was the coronation of King Charles and Queen Camilla, which is just so crazy. And then I look at the show and I'm seeing a coronation from hundreds of years ago. So kind of neat. Agatha throws some pretty interesting twists and turns here. She's playing everybody. She tells her husband that she really believes in him, and you get the sense that even though she's kind of annoyed with him a lot because he's constantly amorous with her, I would have been very happy to never see another love scene, as I was thinking just as he keeled over. Yes, he passes away while lovemaking. Yeah, I could have done without all of those scenes. Oh my gosh. But then you realize how she really feels about him. She's basically doing the happy dance with Coral, her lady's maid, out in the hallway. And then they put on a show for everybody else of how upset she is. In fact, as we go back to the present day, we see Violet as an adult mourning the loss of her husband still after so many years. It's his birthday. And Lady Danbury says, you know what? You're lucky because you feel this way. So what else big happens? Agatha does get her party, because again, she's playing everybody. She's playing George's mother. She's playing Charlotte. She's trying to manipulate everyone to do what she wants. It's a good reason, right? She wants to bring everyone together. She wants to be recognized as the full, powerful human that she and her husband are. Charlotte shares with George how she's understanding him better. They come to terms with the fact that they're not going to do even days anymore. They're just going to have days, which I thought that was so sweet. In fact, let's talk about that for another minute. Whoa! Those even days were pretty crazy, especially in the dining room. Oh my gosh. It's like, run as fast as you can. It was pretty intense and pretty spicy and honestly pretty fun. The passion that they have while hating one another, but still making it work for those even days. Oh my goodness. That was pretty crazy. But anyway, they've made up. He decides the first event he's going to go to, George I'm referring to, is Lady Danbury's ball. I keep saying Lady Danbury. It's supposed to be Lord Danbury's ball, right? Anyway, it's a great success, especially after Violet's father, who is just a prince. I love that man so much. He's so dear. He asks to dance with Lady Danbury. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's okay. Everybody, let's mix and mingle. Let's not choose sides anymore. I had goosebumps. And when they played the instrumental rendition of If I Ain't Got You, oh, that was just fabulous. Again, goosebumps, loved it. But at the end, things take a turn for the dramatic. We see again that Queen Charlotte is so sad in the present day. She's always been King George's woman, basically, and has never gotten over him. We still don't have a sense of what's going on, but man, do we get a taste. We see Charlotte wake up in the middle of the night. George is agitated. He's drawing on the walls. He doesn't seem completely aware of what's going on. He's very much in his head. He's racing outside, gets naked, and starts screaming up at the planet Venus as if it's a person, and then starts asking other people to talk to Venus in all seriousness. What's interesting is George's man, whose name I still don't know. I hear Brimsley's name all the time, but not George's man. You can tell that George's man is not surprised and that he's been keeping this a secret, even from Brimsley. So this is not new. This is something that George has been dealing with. And Charlotte is surprised, but man, does she think on her feet. She actually says, I'm Venus and I'm going inside, so you're coming inside with me. I didn't know if that was a great decision, but it worked out. So that's good. It just breaks my heart. It's just a further reminder that things are not going to be the happily ever after that I'm so accustomed to in romance novels. I'm really curious to see how this series is going to end. We are now halfway through. Maybe tomorrow I will not look like an unmade bed, like this. Unmade bed. An unmade bed in an unmade bed. Yes, so tomorrow for episode 4, it will be Monday. I will be out and about in public. Maybe I'll actually wear makeup. All right, let's do this. Okay, so let's talk about episode 4, Holding the King. Wow. Okay, it starts with a disclaimer that there's nudity, sex, and smoking, but I wish they'd also had a disclaimer for scary shaving scenes and sad puppies in cages. I can't stand either of those things. I actually thought I was gonna have to fast forward through some of this when George begs Dr. Creepy Pants, aka Dr. Monroe, I believe his name is, to help him. We see that George has been struggling with these episodes for a long time and they don't really know how to help him. So we see a doctor who looks like he might be good when he says that he's going to talk to him. I thought, oh yay, therapy, it's the birth of therapy, how wonderful. And then no, it's scary. It's really scary. It was reminding me of Scandal there for a moment. I don't know if you watched Scandal, but I had to stop watching it because of the scenes where they would get the answers they wanted. The ways they went about doing that were a little disturbing to me. A lot disturbing, actually. And I was like, oh no, is this going to be that? Because it is the Shonda-verse. So I was nervous, but okay, it was okay. We just saw a lot of shaving and some leeches, which was also gross. They should have put a disclaimer for that as well. Of course, this episode begins with a man's perfect bottom. It had been like 5 minutes since I'd seen a naked bottom, so I think, of course we have to start there. I did chuckle at the beginning, like, oh, here we go again. But for most of this episode, it was really sad. Like, it just broke my heart seeing George trying these techniques to try to be a better person for Charlotte and for his country. You just think, oh, I wish we could be in present day and you could get more effective treatment. It was really fascinating to see everything from the beginning again, but from George's perspective. And then you finally get an understanding, because I remember thinking just a few minutes ago in this vlog, why in the world is he so excited to see her when she barges in the observatory? What in the world is this guy about? Now we know. I'm really glad that he let Dr. Monroe go, but then we find out that Dr. Monroe is still there, being creepy and lurking in corners and in kitchens at night because he's making a poultice, because George's wife Charlotte is pregnant, and this freaks George out. We see him trying to sort of regulate himself with thoughts about the sky and being a farmer, and then it just rapidly kind of devolves from there. And it's kind of a repeat of what happened in the previous episode. Then Charlotte goes and talks to Princess Augusta. I felt for her, talking about doing whatever you can for your kids to try to make them better. I absolutely understand that sentiment. You know, Charlotte just saying, I just need to know him. But I'm sure George is feeling like no one loves him at this point. They're talking about him as if he's a problem. So I'm hopeful that things will be resolved in episode 5. There's only 2 episodes left, and I don't think it's gonna be a happy ending. I love my happy endings. That's why I went to romance, but we shall see. There's one other thing that we finally discover, or maybe you already noticed, the name of George's right-hand man, Reynolds. Reynolds, I feel like, is the hero of this episode. He was there for the king whenever he needed. He was quiet when he should have been. He was supportive when he should have been. He was giving little words of wisdom when he should have been. I just love Reynolds so much. I'm really thankful that he got an episode to shine. That was really neat. I loved seeing this man who's kind of behind the scenes. Looking forward to hopefully a happier episode next. I guess this is just a drama. There's a reason I don't generally watch dramas. This is why. Moving on. I'm out in the garden right now. I did not expect to feel all the feelings that I was feeling. This show is breaking my heart in turns. I mean, we have the king. He is undergoing all kinds of torture just to try to come back to himself. I loved how Reynolds tries to rescue him at one point and they throw him back out, but he just can't take it anymore. Of course, at the end, Charlotte goes in there. She captures him while they're burning him with a hot poker on his calf, and she's gonna take care of him. And I see Reynolds and Brimsley looking at one another like, okay. You don't know for sure what they're thinking, but she says they're moving a cue, so that's good. Charlotte is now pregnant and she feels more trapped than ever. She even writes a letter to her brother to try to come save her, and she realizes she is basically owned by the country. Brimsley does what he can to try to give her a sense of freedom. She reaches out to Agatha, who we need to talk more about in just a minute. Good night. Oh, this episode, this series wow, how is it going to end? There's only one left. So Charlotte's moving with her mother-in-law. That can't be easy. The way she brings George back to himself is by having him feel the baby. I thought that was a beautiful moment. It was really touching. Let's talk about the present as well. We've got Charlotte marrying off her son and telling him that love is about determination and work and just hanging on to someone. And it's interesting. I just finished the book yesterday. It's a YA romance called Instructions for Dancing, about a young girl who can see the beginning, middle, and end of a relationship just in her mind when she sees someone kiss. And the whole point of the book is love worth it when you know it will end? It reminds me of that book. Very interesting, the parallels you can see between reading and watching a show. So Charlotte's marrying off her eldest son, Prince Eyebrows, I believe his name was. Also, we have Violet Bridgerton, who used to be Violet Ledger, and she has decided she's ready for love, and she is telling this to Lady Danbury. And oh my, I couldn't believe what happened with Lady Danbury in this episode. She talks about how she's always basically been whatever Lord Danbury wanted her to be. She doesn't even know how to breathe at this point. So she goes on a walk and she meets up with Violet's dad. And he's so kind and lovely, and I just liked him so much. And now I like him a lot less. I feel so bad because they begin an affair, long story short. He tries to hold himself back, but he makes her a party hat because she says she's not even going to celebrate her birthday because she's in mourning. And then they make love, and she puts herself in the driver's seat, so to speak, if you get my meaning, which I guess is supposed to be liberating and everything. But I just feel badly for Violet. It's just, so many things. Such a mess. Yikes. Feel badly for Violet. I get Agatha. I wish Ledger had made a better choice. Could they have just been friends? You don't usually see cheating in romance novels. So again, this is just sort of breaking all the rules, but I guess this is a drama. What a crazy episode. What a crazy episode. I'd love to know your thoughts. If you haven't commented yet, this is a great time to do so. I just finished and wow, really emotional. I did not know what I was getting into. When I asked everyone if they prefer I did a vlog or a 3-minute review of this show, 77% of my online friends said vlog. Oh my, what did I do? So many emotional moments. I feel like this show, there should be a huge trigger warning for people who have had mental health issues or a loved one with mental health issues, because it was very stressful seeing George struggling and not always getting the support he needed. I felt like Reynolds often got it better than anyone else, that George wasn't just fixed what he needed and what he didn't need. And Charlotte just wanted her love to fix everything. She did as much as she could, but ultimately, good night. That's a lot of pressure to be king and then just say, okay, just go in a carriage and go speak to Parliament. There were just moments that were like this when they played the instrumental version of I Will Always Love You. And I loved seeing Charlotte and George dancing, but honestly, I was moved to tears seeing Reynolds and Brimsley up on the hill dancing privately. It was so sweet. And then you cut to the present and Reynolds is gone and Brimsley's by himself. And it was really emotional. It's so funny. In the first half of this vlog, I didn't even know Reynolds' name. And now, he was one of my favorite characters because he's just quietly doing the right thing and observing and just trying to be helpful. And Brimsley, of course, is adorable, but you feel for him because he never got to have his family. And now can they do another series of what happened with Brimsley and Reynolds? Let's talk about Agatha. I love that Ledger, I feel like he did the right thing. He ended things and was the lovely man that I thought that he was when he talked about what a great reputation Agatha has, trying to sort of mention, hey, I'm trying to do the right thing in front of his daughter, Violet, who liked her. Violet discovers that party hat decades later and realizes that Agatha had an affair with Violet's father. And they sort of talk about it and how Agatha felt free. It was intense. I didn't feel like they got a huge sense of closure, but I don't know, maybe in season 3 of Bridgerton, Violet will get to find a man. I would love that. But Agatha winds up turning down the queen's brother. I'm glad that she wanted to be her own woman. Good for her. It was interesting too, seeing Agatha and Princess Augusta. Agatha starts crying and Augusta is super supportive. Just kidding. She tells her to stop crying and then gives her brandy and then says, I really enjoy fighting with you, essentially. But all turns out well because they do honor the great experiment, and the new Lord Danbury is Agatha's son, so that's good that the title is passed down. I think ultimately what this show is about is just loving someone in the best way you can. You know what I wish? I wish that, for my Chloe Leese fans out there, I wish Chloe Leese could have somehow just rocked in there and been like, okay, George needs help. We're gonna love him through this. We're gonna support him. We're gonna love him for who he is, for the unique individual that he is, and just help find a way for him to live his best life. That's some of my favorite things about Chloe Leese. But I felt like I loved how, you know, it's funny when Charlotte first walked in and George was under the bed and she's like, come out from there. And I thought, ugh, don't make him do that. He's finally finding comfort. The poor thing. And then she goes under there with him and it's like, oh, thank you. It's meeting him where he's at. And then at the end, I loved how they did that. I'm sorry. How they showed them in the past and present and just how much they still love each other. And it breaks your heart, but it's still, love is there. So not my favorite ending. I prefer my happily ever afters, more happy. But I am looking forward to starting the book tomorrow, and I will be vlogging that as well. Great idea. So yes, I will be doing that. We'll see which one's better too, and how they differ and how they are the same. I cannot wait to see. I was looking at Instagram and I love Julia Quinn. Her comment was, you saw the show, now see what everyone was thinking, which I'm like, I'm thinking, oh wow, this is gonna be really neat. So by the way, if you need a little bit more of that vibe, there are playlists on Spotify and SiriusXM, just for example, of instrumental pop music. It's a lot of fun to listen to. I know what I thought. I'd love to know what you thought. I bet you pulled out some really interesting lessons or ideas from this show that I didn't. So please feel free to leave comments below, and I'm sure everybody else would like to see them too. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're enjoying whatever it is you're reading, whether it's Queen Charlotte or not. Until next time, thanks so much. Take care. Bye.